Good night. Thank you very much, Pilar, for your introduction. Thank you to all of you for being here. I had a little bit of a speech prepared, but I think that we are more an informal setting. And I thought that I would just give you a little bit of 2-3 hints about projects that keep me awake at night. And then if you want to ask me questions, we would do these more interactive later on. As Pilar was describing, we thought about this idea of open innovation, open science, and openness to the world a little bit as I'd say, even an ideological idea to try to fight against the point that today in Europe you see that we are closing ourselves, a little bit of the protectionism that we see in some areas of Europe. And we thought that it was a good way of seeing where the place of science and innovation in Europe. And so on these 3 pillars of the open innovation, the open science, and open to the world, we have put priorities forward. And let me just give you a couple of examples of points that I would like to discuss with you. For me, open innovation is understanding that with the digital world, innovation has changed. So the way we did the innovation 50 years, 100 years ago is not the same way we do it today. And why? Because the digital world has put the user at the center of the game. And so the user now is the one that is telling us what to do. So innovation that was, as Schumpeter would say, to push from the producer to the user is not there anymore. And so we have to create instruments in Europe that can grab that opportunity of the digital innovation. And so we thought about this idea that I have a lot of supporters here, starting with Pilar, but I see Roland out there, Roland Strauss, of the European Innovation Council idea. And people ask me, but what are you thinking of? What's this? Is it a council? No, it's not a council. It's about changing the way we do things to grab disruptive and market-creating innovation. And so what do we have to change? Because we've done a lot of great things, and we do a lot of great things in fundamental research. We do a lot of great things in incremental innovation, in efficiency in terms of innovation, but then we have to grab new markets. And the point that I would like to discuss with you and to introduce to you is that how can I change? How can you help me? How can you help me rethink our own instruments? Because I think that when you have instruments that are too top-down, you are not capturing the new market disruptive innovation. And what do I mean by that? If I tell you to innovate in one particular field, do I will really get from you anything new? Because I'm telling you to do batteries in this field, or I'm telling you to do nanotechnology. And probably the new market disruptive innovation will come from a mix of nanotechnology with sciences that are more social sciences or anthropology or sociology. And so we have to do a change in some of our instruments to get them more bottom-up. And to that concept, we called it the European Innovation Council. And then we have to change the paradigm to get more financing. And so we started the idea of creating a fund of funds that would be different from what we have today. Today we have a lot of instruments that are done with the EIB and the EIF, and they're very good. But we need to get more instruments that will have private money and private management. And so we thought that we could actually launch a call for ideas, also to get the private sector to come and say, look, I will manage your fund of funds, and I'll raise money for you. And so we will have a little bit of public money with private money. And so this will be the pillar of the open innovation. Changing rules to grab the disruptive and the market-creating innovation, creating conditions for more private financing. And a lot of you in the private sector know that venture capital in Europe is very small compared to the US, that our funds are very small compared to the US funds. So we need to grab and get more of that kind of financing in Europe. Then the second point that I want just to go through tonight is about open science. And in open science, we established 3 priorities: open access to publications, open data, and research integrity. And on those three priorities, our objective was to change the paradigm, to say that if we want digital innovation, we have to have scientists that can read for free. And so we have to change the paradigm of the publishers that were used to actually have the other way around. You would have to pay to read. And now we want people to actually be able to be not paying to read. So the business model has to change. And with the help of the Parliament, 2 weeks ago we were able, in the Council, in the Competitive Council, to have for the first time all Europe saying until 2020 we'll change the paradigm and we will have a paradigm that is free to read. I think that's one of the most historical decisions that was taken in terms of the Competitive Council, and no one noticed. You know, sometimes you have these things in politics that you have so many things around and no one noticed that the countries decided to open the publications for free to read until 2020. And they did the same thing about open data. And open data is also very important that we get the data to be available to all. The other day I visited in Germany the European Bioinformatics Institute in Heidelberg, an amazing place. And they decided very early on that they would put all the data available to scientists, to life science scientists. And they made a calculation and they saw that they get more than 1 billion in extra revenues for having the open data. So putting the data online brought everybody 1 billion per year of revenues in terms of creating new companies, new jobs, and getting innovation on the floor. And so I think that with the open access to publication, the open data, we really are changing the paradigm. And I think that we should be very happy with that, and it's very good news for Europe. And the third point is that also for the first time in our last Competitiveness Council, we got for the agreement of all the countries to introduce the innovation principle in the legislative process. And that is something very unique. And so I hope that we can discuss these points here tonight, that you can ask me questions, and then that I can have also a drink with you. But I think that was a little bit of the update, Pilar. I know that is late and people want to have a drink and have a little bit of food. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and waiting for your questions during the rest of the party.